Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Zebra Talk podcast, where we shine a little light onto the lives and the untold stories of the people who slide on their knees and count the threes. That's right, I'm talking about the referees. And today, I'm joined by one of my favorite people anywhere in the world, the hilarious, one of my favorite people from Zebra Talk. He's one of the mainstays in Finnish professional wrestling as well as refereeing. Please welcome, close enough, Teemu Kitasari.
Close enough. Teemu Kitasari, yes. Yes, you got it close enough.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I usually go by Tim if Teemu is too challenging, and it often is. So being abroad, it's sometimes Tim the Finnish ref, or just Teemu. But sure. I used Tim in Atlanta when I was there, so I respond to that as well.
It's funny. I didn't realize. Like, obviously, most of us didn't realize that we were mispronouncing your name in our heads, but I didn't realize how universally mispronounced it was until we did the Q&A series in Zebra Talk. For those of you who are unfamiliar, at the beginning of COVID, we did 51-hour sessions with referees from all over the world, from varying levels of experience and success. And Teemu here was one of our more prevalent watchers, and also one of the people that was interviewed or conducted a Q&A for himself.
Interrogated.
Every single person that read one of his comments, we all, funny enough, pronounced it the exact same way. We'd be like, "Oh, Teemu Kitasari," and consistently every single time without fail, Teemu over here left a little comment that said close enough. So that's kind of unofficially become his nickname. I was just telling my girlfriend about that earlier, and she got a good kick out of it. But anyway, let's dive right into it. So obviously you're from Finland. You're working for FCF Wrestling. You're working for Slam Wrestling. Tell us a little bit about like who you are, where particularly in Finland you come from, how you found yourself into this crazy wrestling world.
Well, I live in Vaasa, Finland. It's on the west coast, roughly halfway up the country. Because if you look at the map, I don't know how many of you know Finnish geography, but if you look at the Finnish map, it's a kind of narrow but tall country. Right. So on the west coast, roughly the middle of the coast is where I live with my family, 3 children, and my fiancée. And the way I found myself in wrestling is, well, it's in Finland. There was this time in the early 2000s, right in 2000 2001, where Sub TV, there was a small channel that started, and they started showing wrestling in the evenings there. And like, if you ask like most Finnish people, when was the time like when they started wrestling? What being a fan of wrestling? That was when they started. Like a lot of people, especially my age, is like that was the time when they started watching with The Rock and Stone Cold and all that. You know, just at the height of Attitude Era.
Gotcha. Very cool.
And for Swedish people, a little detour, but I'll get there. For Swedish people, it started roughly in the 90s with the New Generation era, where many people, because they had their show with actual Swedish commentators, and then they did a kind of a lousy job commentating because they had no idea what they were looking at, but you know, the guys were hilarious enough that people remember them to this day. And so if you talk to a lot of Swedish people, that's where they got started.
It's kind of one of the funny things that you have to like deal with a little bit when it comes to like expanding out into new territories and new countries, new languages and stuff like that. If it's the first time wrestling has been in the country, there's not going to be a lot of native speakers who know wrestling very well.
And especially in countries where there's no wrestling culture. Then like most people are like what is this? What's so like trying to find someone to understand that's a sidewalk slam, that's a power bomb, that's a whatever. So, you know, the Swedish guys were, you know, one of them was trying seriously and the other one was just goofing off and half like, what is this fat guy doing here? But like, but the detour I was coming to is like, I share both these backgrounds because as a small child, I lived in Sweden just when that was happening. So as a 10-year-old, I experienced what the Swedes did. And when I moved back to Finland, I experienced what the Finns did. So like, in a way, those have been like the 2 early phases before I started refereeing when I was in contact with wrestling, but it kind of like went on the back burner for a long time. But it like,
but you
should we
already
say,
had an appreciation for pro wrestling, like when it came to Finland, you already had a bit of a love for it, like from when you saw it in Sweden.
Yeah, I was like, that was like when, like my first memories of watching wrestling. Like I can't remember the show, I can't remember the opponent, but I remember Undertaker. I remember the Undertaker.
I mean, it's
and
hard to forget, right?
Yeah. But like that's the part that left with me. And like we used to collect not trading cards, but like stickers that came with the magazines and bubblegum stuff. So, but like with my brother, and he had a big love for HBK in his side, and it was something like, it was for a moment it was like very intense, but then it went to the back burner because it wasn't something like I was thinking about like, well, this is what I could do, because it's something far away. It's in the United States, and so it's like when people think like, oh, I'm gonna be a Hollywood actress. Yeah. It's like,
it's
like miles away.
Because it's so far away.
Yeah, it's so far. It's literally on another side of the world. It's too far away. Nothing you even think about seriously. But like, roughly 10 years ago is when my fire for wrestling really started burning. And that was kind of like, it was like kind of low point in my life where I was single, I was really overweight. Well, I'm still overweight, but I was, way beyond that. And I was like just spinning my wheels, not going anywhere, not doing anything. I was supposed to be studying history. Like nothing was really clicking. I didn't have the passion for it. I used to have the passion, nothing felt like anything.
Sure.
And I stumbled into wrestling, and I decided like, you know what, I'm gonna get the first WrestleMania, because I really wanted to see that, because as a history buff, I was like, I'm gonna watch the first WrestleMania. Yeah. So once I watched that, I watched the second and the third, and next thing I know, I watched all of them. We went to the rest of the pay-per-views, and then this idea started, shaping in my head. Like, you know what? Now I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get a job.
It's funny when we rediscover wrestling. It like just becomes so immersive. Like I had a similar experience when I first started watching wrestling again in like 2011 or something like that. I just at a friend's house, and it was a Monday night. And I'm like, oh, Monday Night Raw is probably on. I haven't seen that in like 10 years. I should probably check it out.
Yeah, straight back in.
Right.
It is so weird. It was like, but like it gave me this idea, like I'm gonna, quit studying. I'm gonna get a job, gonna save my money, and then I'm gonna head over to the United States and get trained as a wrestler. At that point, I still wasn't planning on becoming a wrestler. I mean, like even then, I wasn't. The funny thing is, like, that's not the part I've been that I've wanted to do. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's. I mean, it is. I can see the appeal, and I can see as a child, especially, as an appeal. Like, who doesn't want to be a superstar? But like, as an adult, I was like, for the first time, I'm 10 years too late. I was already 26 by that point, but I wasn't very athletic to begin with, if ever, and it was more the part like because I had background in amateur theater, like I wanted to become a manager, but I was thinking like, but I need a foot in the door, so I need to go get training, and that led me to WWA 4 in Atlanta, where I got trained back in 2013, the first 3-4 months by Mr. Curtis Hughes.
Very cool. Was Fox there yet?
Sorry?
Was Fox there yet?
Yeah, he was around. He wasn't in charge of the school back then, but he was around.
Sure.
And I got to meet him there and refereed some of his matches as well there. I also remember Jonathan Gresham was there at the time.
I was just about to say that school's got a hell of a pedigree. There's a ton of very talented people that have come out of there.
Yeah, I mean, like back then, like when I applied, all I knew was like, oh, Hughes, I know him, and like I knew Heath Slater because Heath Slater's from there as well. But like other than that, I was like, I had no idea of the indies. I had no idea of the other guys. But now, like Gresham, Fox, Uha Nation, or Apollo Crews now.
Right.
The list. yeah. The list is very long these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very, it feels very cool to be,
Damn, we'll get
yeah, even a little connected with these people.
pretty cool. Were they in your training class like while you were there, or were they just kind of people who had already learned how to wrestle that you were around?
They were already, they've already passed the training, and they were more like helping out at the school, train the guys, and
Or
guys like Black Baron, 'cause he was there at the time. He was more of like uh, past his training, but he was more getting learning the production part and the booking and like backstage stuff. In addition to the wrestling he was doing.
yeah.
But the more like guys like Gresham, they weren't so much training so much as just being uh, assistants, or just, well, obviously a lot of help because they wanted to give back to the school and to the new students.
What was your training experience like? Did you have another referee that you were learning from, or was it like a lot of us where you just kind of like they taught you how to do rolls and bumps and wrestling and stuff like that? And I mean, you were going in with the intention of being a manager. Like, at what point did you transition into actually wanting to become a ref?
Well, the wanting to become a ref that came like a few years later, but like at the time it was like I got to manage a couple of times, but my first contact becoming a referee was when the referee, who was a wrestler in training, he got sick. He told me to let Hughes know that he wasn't coming in that day, and we had like every week we had this free show that the students would wrestle in for the crowd to get some experience and practice. And Hughes obviously didn't appreciate so much no showing, even if they were a little sick.
Sure.
But like I covered it and said, like, let me do it. I'll do it. It was like, I was there to learn anyway, so I was like, what the hell? I'll do it. I'll referee for you. Yeah, I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen, right?
Maybe I could find a career.
yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your first match. What was that experience like? Do you remember who was in it?
I don't remember my first match. I remember parts of those matches. It's been a while, so they're starting to blend in. But I do have them on video, and they're up on YouTube somewhere.
Nice.
But one of my most vivid moments is when Moose, who was training right at the time there, like I said, a lot of names there. You keep popping up while we're talking. But Moose was having a match there, and I don't remember his opponent, but he power slammed his opponent, and then he went for a pin. And I remember just, I was just staring in awe at the fact that there was such a nice power bomb.
Yeah.
And I forgot to count the pin. Until Moose was like, get down and count.
Get down.
Oh, yeah, get down, man. Count the pin. Count the pin. All right.
I have a little bit of trouble with that as well, when somebody like power bombs someone and then they like stay on top of them.
Yeah. All right, this is my cue now.
And I'm like, oh man, that was a cool power bomb. Is he gonna pick him up again? Oh my God, it's a pin. Get down.
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Another moment I had is like in the training I hurt my heel. Yeah. Not my turn, but my actual heel, when I took a bump and I landed on my heel, and it hurt like an MF for a week. Yeah. And of course we had the show, but I'm like, no, this is what you do. You don't quit. So like I literally worked one foot standing on my toes, and I think I pulled it off pretty well enough that most people didn't notice. But my brother, when he saw the video, was like, you're walking on your toes the whole time. I can like tell. But like, I think the most other people didn't notice, because I don't know. I managed to pull it off pretty well, but like apparently not well enough for some people. But yeah, that was a memorable moment in the glorious early days of my refereeing career.
I had a match not too long ago, like before COVID. It was maybe in like 2019 or something like that. I don't remember who it was, but at some point during the day, I guess I had gotten a metal shaving in my shoe. and right in like the palm of the ball of my foot, it just like seared
Oh,
right in,
I can see where this is going.
right at the beginning of the match. And it's like, as I'm in there refereeing the match, like bell rings. Oh, what's that? Well,
Mhm.
guess I'm gonna walk on my heel for the rest of this match.
Yeah.
But I was okay. It was fine.
Yeah.
But just interesting things that you never really expect to have to deal with in wrestling. That
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah, yeah. Those are the hazards of live entertainment.
right? How long after you got kind of thrown into the deep end did you decide that like this was what you wanted to do from now on? And like again, did you have any other referee around that was helping train you, or were you just kind of like learning on the fly?
Well, it was learning on the fly. I mean, Hughes did give advice, get information, with a lot of help and giving feedback. But like other than that, it was like other wrestlers teaching wrestlers to be referees. So there was like no referee in particular that could give any information. That was until 2015, where like I started like actively refereeing in 2014 when I returned to Finland, and I started with FCF Wrestling, Fight Club Finland at the time, and then they only use FCF these days because it doesn't really fit the image. The Fight
Sure.
Club Finland, it was more rock and roll and you know like underground ECW kind of style early days, but it tries to be more mainstream and more what shall we say, more, yeah, more professional looking and more sports entertainment friendly style of
Gotcha.
presentation. So like my first in was like, hey, like I pitched them out. I've been a manager in a WWE 4, like and they said, sure, come on over. And they said like, we don't have a spot for you now, but like, would you mind refereeing? Like if you wanna, like we'll borrow your shirt. And I said, sure. I mean, like I'm just doing what I can to be helpful and be part of the show and
Yeah.
and get to know the guys as well, and just wait for my opportunity to become a manager. And well, I remember, like I said, like in the early days, it's like someone says, yeah, sure, we'll get you a shirt, just come on over. So when I arrived, they're like, do you have a shirt? And no, they said that they would get me
Very
one.
pro
Like,
wrestling.
yes,
Pro
yeah,
wrestling.
very classic, very classic. So like, never assume they got it.
Yeah,
Always get it yourself. If
absolutely.
anyone is listening, always get your own stuff. They know what, never have to borrow. But fortunately, it worked out. But like, there was a moment that was like, yeah, this is off to a really good start. Like all I have is my pants and my shoes, but like no stripes. But it worked out. I managed to get a hold of a pair of stripes, and funnily enough, it's my first pair, and I still have them to this day because like the guy who was reffing there, I mean, he stopped refereeing shortly after I arrived.
Yeah.
He was a professional photographer, started doing that. So like, but like he kind of like passed it on to me, so to speak, which I thought it was a really nice gesture of him.
I feel like that's something that people kind of like overlook in pro wrestling, like as far as like memorabilia and nostalgia and stuff like that. The shirts that we have, or like the shoes that we wear, and the like amount of miles that have been put on those. Like I have the same pair of shoot wrestling shoes that I bought when I first started training, and like just thinking the like different matches that I've been involved in, and the different companies that I've been to, the different cities, states, like whatever. I'm sure yourself, like you've seen a crazy amount of different situations with this shirt. It's got a lot of lineage to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
you started FCF. They don't provide the shirt for you, but you figure it out anyway, and then it's just off to the races from there. You just kind of accepted that this was your fate from now on, or
well, let's for roughly a year, I was like, yeah, it's fun doing this, and I was getting better. I mean, like I was crap at the start. I mean, like
as we all are.
As we all are.
Some of
like
us are.
yeah, but it was one of those things, like I wasn't bad enough that they didn't ask me back, and it was sooner at some point they was like, oh, you're really good at this, and I'm like, really? Okay. Like what about my manager stuff? No, you're more valuable as a referee. I'm like,
victim of your own
damn,
success.
yeah. Damn it. but like at that point, I was still like, still kind of thinking about the whole manager stuff. But like, fast forward a year forward to 2015, and I got to meet Earl Hebner at a seminar in Stockholm, Sweden, and they were having a like a big show there, and like Nordic wrestlers and referees from Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark all came to Stockholm for the show, and Hebner held a 2-day seminar. First day he was like for the wrestlers and others on backstage stuff, production stuff, and things of that nature. And on the next day he was more for the referees, and he was doing that seminar like when I was really nervous, thinking like, I mean, it's Earl Hebner. It's like,
Why?
yeah. So it's like when I had my match, I'm like, I know he's watching.
Yeah.
But like, and so I was like, okay, do a good job. Don't screw this up. But like, and it went fine. It went fine. I didn't think about it. I was just, I didn't mess anything up. And then I go backstage, and I'm, and I know he's going to be in the main event. So I want to go and talk to him. I was like, good luck in the match, whatever, something, just to get to talk to him. And he takes my hand, shakes, and it's like, you're good. You're probably the best one here.
Nice.
Me? Moi? Yeah. You talked to Hebner too. Moi? But yeah, are you me? But yeah, that was like, it was so mind-boggling. I was like, really? Like, you're not ribbing me. You're seriously saying
it's wild
this.
To get that affirmation and that validation from somebody that you looked up to for so long. The first time you hear from somebody that you see as like a mentor or a role model, that's like, like you could do this as a career and as a job. You go from that kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, to like, oh
yeah. And it's sort of like, and there is also like the level of, your peers can say like, you're really good, but it's like, it's one thing when, they're here, and when it's someone from here, and they're telling you you're good, then you're like, they might actually mean it. They might actually, they might actually, just not be ribbing me, or, just need a body for the show. They might actually mean what they're saying. So yeah, it was like that weekend, like getting to spend time with Hebner at the seminar, at the show, was like, that was definitely like the moment where like, I could like focus on this. I could seriously start doing this, because like, well, like all the advice he gave and all the information he gave was like, and the encouragement was, that was exactly what I needed to like taking far more seriously and focus on it.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong. I mean, like, I still have done a bit of managing on some smaller shows, and still would love to do that. But like, I focus on the refereeing. Has been far more
lucrative.
How should I put it? Well, lucrative, yeah, and far more like be given a lot more opportunities being a referee than as a manager.
That's kind of what I remind myself anytime I have those moments where, I start thinking like, oh, what about managing? What about wrestling? Like maybe I could wear a different hat or something like that. And it's like, I could probably be a wrestler. I could definitely be a ring announcer. But as a referee, like, the doors that have opened up for me in a way quicker time than they ever should have. And I'm sure you can attest to this as well. Like, the doors open up when you're a decent referee like that. That's just,
yeah.
I can't really, throw away all these opportunities for something that I might be good at.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and it's called, and there's also like kind of like a vanity thing to it. Like, so I could do so much more. I could be a star. I could be like, I could be on the marquee. And there's like, I mean, like, I mean, we all have that to a certain extent, considering, what we do. I mean, wrestling is the kind of
business. There's something about that, right? Yeah.
I mean, you don't go in front of a live audience if you don't want to be in front of an audience.
Yeah.
But like, but at the same time, it's like kind of like, I'm kind of okay not being the main event. I mean, like I never wanted to be, anything like that. I mean, I don't mind having attention. I don't mind entertaining fans, but at the same time, it's like, I'm okay with not being the guy.
Yeah.
Like
Or
it's a little weird to explain, but I think you understand.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about Hebner briefly. Are there any other referees that like you've looked up to over the years that you've studied? People that you consider a mentor now that you're a lot more experienced as a referee. Who are the referees that you look up to?
Well, other referees who I look up to, like they're actually more
Would you?
current than.
Sorry, before not to cut you off. Would you consider yourself, not to like throw too many compliments at yourself or anything,
Yeah.
but are you like the senior premier Finnish referee? Like, is there anybody that's above you in experience?
Active, no. Like there have been referees before me the past. I mean, what is this? The past 15 years, 15, 16 years that wrestling has been in Finland. I mean, there have been referees, but they have either, during a shorter time span than they have either, just quit or move on to other like roles or become wrestlers.
Life moves on. Absolutely. You can't exactly do this forever. So
Yeah.
maybe let's switch the question a little bit. What kind of people are you mentoring right now? Because I know a handful of the people that work with you and train under you just from Zebra Talk and from talking to them online and stuff. But I've never really heard you talk about your students or mentees or anything like that. Let's hear what you've got.
Well, I wouldn't maybe call them students per se, but like obviously being the senior, like it is almost expected, and I do by my nature. I mean, I wanted to become. There was a time when I wanted to become a teacher. I was studying history to become a teacher, but so there is a sort of part of me that wants to pass on knowledge and information. So, well, like I have Dominika, I have Juho, I have Riku, but Juha has been around for a few years now. I wouldn't call him a rookie by any stretch of the imagination at this point, but like Riku and Dominika are completely fresh at this point, and I think I've managed to kind of light a fire under them in a way. I mean, like not to toot my own horn, but like from the way I talk to them and the way I followed them, on social media as well. I was kind of the guy who like let them know that you can do this, do more than just referee in Finland. You can get abroad. You can kind of get a name for yourself and kind of become just there's more to it than just slapping the mat in Finland. You can actually see the world. You can actually
you don't have to necessarily be the center of attention or the main focus or the main event or anything, but you can be an actual present member known of the wrestling community worldwide, and you can actually tour the wrestling community worldwide.
Exactly.
You're mentioning Dominika a lot, and I would love to compliment you and herself as like she's definitely forming quite a presence for herself online, and I see the fire that you're talking about. That's like she's hungry to reach out everywhere that she can and learn everything that she can, as well as you, who isn't necessarily a rookie anymore, but very heavy presence. And then is it Riku? I think is that
Riku. Riku. Yes. Also another one of those challenging Finnish names again. you gotta roll the R. Riku. Yeah, Riku.
Is there a lot of crossover between the Danish countries and the wrestling scene? Obviously, Sweden, Finland, Norway are the peninsula, and then you've got Denmark down there. Do you guys all kind of circulate around, or is it too far away to really do that realistically, and you're all just kind of in your own bubbles?
Well, yes and no. I mean, like
not counting COVID times, obviously.
No, during the back good old days. But like yes and no in a way, because like in a way Finland is a kind of an entity unto itself, because unlike the other Nordic countries, you can't really travel by car from here, because there is the Baltic Sea that divides Finland from Sweden, except in way up north in the Arctic Circle. Right. And but from Sweden to Norway to Denmark, all the distance you can cover it by car, and you have a lot more shows within like 4 or 5 kilometers, no, not 4 or 5 kilometers, but 4 or 5 hours from each other. You have Gothenburg, Malmö, Stockholm, Oslo, Copenhagen. They're all, 4 or 5 hours from each other. You can do it by car. You can cover them all.
As far as
But
for the Finns, if you can get to Sweden or Norway, you can get to the rest of everything. But like,
yeah,
I think Finland is kind of its own little bubble.
yeah, it's like not just cultural, but geographically speaking, it's been kind of like that. So like from Finland, you have to take boat or you have to fly, and that obviously puts a damper on things if budget is a concern, which it usually is.
Yeah. It's almost like we came up with some kind of, I don't know, travel grant or charity or something like that.
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
that's a good transition. We haven't really talked about this yet.
Oh.
Demo here was the first person that was awarded the Zebra Talk Fund. Tell us a little bit about that experience. Tell us about WXW.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, personally, when I heard I got the fund, I was like,
really?
Me, really? Moi? Like once again, it was one of those first I tried for a laugh, and they're gonna reject, but like, oh well, at least I tried. But like, no, actually, you got it. You were the first one to get it
for that first month, and like yours was by and far like the most professional one. We gave a list of like what the requirements were for what we wanted. We wanted very detailed description of what you were doing, where you were going, some proof that you were booked, and there were a handful of other emails that were just like, hey, I'm going to blah blah blah, but like you actually took the time to follow the steps. So yeah, of course.
Yeah, I know it was a really hard process. Like, don't draw it with crayon and sources.
I mean, some pro wrestling standards. Yeah.
Source, dude, trust me. I'm going. It's like so I was thinking like put in the effort so it might pay off. I mean, like this is a good advice to all of you guys out there. If you're listening, put in the effort, it'll pay off. But yeah, well, I was so glad when I got the fund, because I was traveling at my own expense to Hamburg, and it did help out a lot to cover the costs. And being at WXW, I was like, that is, it's the biggest company on continental Europe. I mean, UK is a country of its own. It's on a different level. But like when it comes to the rest of the continental Europe, WXW, that is the big one.
Yeah.
And in a way, it was familiar. There is the ring, there's the ring crew, there's the whole shebang. But at the same time, it was like you could tell, like these guys have been doing it for a while. They do dozens, if not, maybe not hundreds, but certainly like dozens of shows, regularly. And in Finland, you can be lucky to get one, maybe two shows a month. And it's like the scene is very tiny. But these guys are doing,
hearing that, because like I'm a little spoiled living on the West Coast and living in the States. Like you throw a rock and you can find a wrestling company. You can get in the States. When things are like 5-6 times in a weekend, if you can do double shows, like it's
it's just same thing in the UK. If you get to the UK, you can work every weekend, and probably twice or maybe even 3 times a weekend, and probably certain weekdays. But like in the Nordics, one show a month, because there's only that 1 or 2 organizations doing shows, and the crowds are the 200-300 people that we get, and you can't. I mean, there's no point in competing for them. There's no point in having 2 shows on the same evening, because you're just gonna split the crowd.
Yeah, makes sense. So you show up to WXW. Tassilo obviously runs a very tight ship over there. Is very professional. A legendary referee himself. Tell me a little bit about what your experience was like. What was you went for a seminar or a tryout or something like that, right?
Well, not a seminar. Well, I guess tryout is the closest thing. It was more like me trying to see, get in contact with WXW. Like I would really like to, work for you guys as a referee, get more experience, and just see how far we can get with this.
Yeah.
And they said, sure, come on over. And it was just an opportunity to kind of measure myself to. I mean, someone like Tassilo has been working, far longer than I have, both not just in the ring, but also in the production and other office parts,
It's kind of like
and
that
getting
next
his.
step up from like what your experience was with Earl Hebner. Like Earl Hebner gave you that confidence that was like, you're good enough to do this like legitimately. And then, you do that and you kind of pay your dues and get reps in for a couple of years. And then the next big step is, all right, I'm going to go to the most professional place in mainland Europe and see if I can hang there. And apparently you did.
Yeah, you put it far more eloquently than I could, because I have I have both the fortunate and unfortunate situation of being the most experienced referee in my country. So if there's no one who can give me feedback, I can't get feedback. So I have to kind of, just to challenge myself and to grow, I have to get out there. Absolutely. And so it is, in a way, it is fun being the kind of guy like people from Stockholm and Gothenburg want to have me ref and fly me over, but at the same time it was this is also a way for me to bring more experience and knowledge back to Finland, to hopefully to give to Riku and Dominika and Juho, and hopefully more guys to come.
What kind of duties do you have as a referee that aren't specifically like inside the ring? Like, are you the head of your ring crew? You said like you're imparting knowledge to the other referees, but you're not necessarily a trainer yet. Have you ever thought about doing that or running your own promotion or anything? Tell me a little bit about the stuff that you do involved in wrestling that isn't necessarily strictly reffing.
Well, outside of training, like the biggest problem with the training is simply the logistics, that I am 400 kilometers away from all the rest of the guys. I mean, like our shows are basically in southern Finland.
Yeah.
In Helsinki and the surrounding parts.
So you commute when you go to work for your shows.
Yeah, so at best it takes 4 or 5 hours by train. Yeah. At worst it takes 6.5 hours with bus. Yeah. So one way. So
you sound like me. That's when I was working for Hollywood regularly, it was like every 2 weeks I was going from San Francisco to Los Angeles, which was like a 10-hour bus ride.
Probably a far more cooler bus ride than I went through, I must admit. Going through central Finland, I mean, it's not very exciting. Between the cities there's just trees.
I don't know if you've ever seen Central California, but if you're not on the coast, it's all just farms.
What? No beaches? No.
It's all on the coast, brother. We're a huge state width-wise. It just doesn't look like it for so long.
Oh well, yeah. I guess you got the same problem. So tall, but not so. Yeah.
You head down to Helsinki each time, and then tell me a little bit about like what your day is like when you're working.
Well, everyone is basically part of the ring crew during setting up, but we have a certain group that is responsible for that. Outside the shows, I'm part of the social media team. Mm-hmm. And I'm also kind of responsible for the referees, even though the training has been arranged by the training team that I'm not part of. But obviously during the referee training, they ask me for feedback and advice and so forth. During the shows, my job is to, put the referees for the matches, arrange who gets what, so they get varying
and every title match, and then they can just deal with whatever else is on there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Spotlight stealing squad right here. I hold all the titles.
No. You could do one better. You could do the main event and the semi-main event.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. You gotta have a rest period in between. I mean,
it's funny that you mentioned rest period. I wasn't trained traditionally when I first started in wrestling. I was in just a backyard setting, and I was the only referee there, but I was there for more than a year. So when I actually did go to a traditional school and started working on real shows, when another referee came in, I wasn't territorial about it or anything, but I was very confused. I was like, wait, there's another ref? They're like, yeah. Why?
We
They're
do
like, well,
that?
'cause there's
Do we
8
do
matches
that?
on the card. I'm like, yeah, so we're inside. We're not out in the sun. Like, I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do 8 matches in like 100-degree weather. Like, whatever, let's do it. And they're like, no, 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 it's okay. We'll give you these 3 matches. And I'm like, 3 matches? What?
yeah. Like,
Uh,
that's so little.
yeah. But
Yeah,
it's nice once you like get adjusted to it and you realize, like you were saying, you have a little bit of downtime to breathe and drink some water
mm,
and not sweat
yeah.
the entire day.
You can put more, more oomph when you have less matches. You can put more oomph into each match, unless you can, unless you're Iron Manning the whole show. You gotta pace yourself,
Yeah,
and then you're like, you gotta go with the slow burn here, and then so you have something at the end of the show. But like when you have those 2 or 3, you can go all in,
Do
and
you
those are the kind of
have
stuff.
do you have a match type that you like to ref? Do you have a specific style that you prefer? Like tag or singles, hardcore, whatever.
Like maybe this I call me old fashioned, but like I really love a good singles match. I mean, like
Hey,
I like it's one of those things. Like I've done tags on, I've done hardcore, but like a good singles match. I mean, like damn, I like that. Those are the kind of like probably also because like those are the matches like where I can also kind of like not how should I put it? Where I can also be a little more fan. I can also be a little bit like a part of the crowd. I can just enjoy the show in a way where I can't if it's a tag team match, because there's too many moving parts,
mhm.
and you got to be focused like 100% on that.
See, for me,
And
it's
the
kind of
more,
the other way around because, like, I also prefer a good singles or a tag team match to something like, for example, like I really hate last man standing matches.
okay,
Like they're essentially the same for me as like a battle royal or a ladder match because I'm
they
just
quit.
standing there waiting, or like
They
a
quit.
last man standing match. I'm almost counting to 10 for 30 minutes. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
you don't really feel like you're being utilized, which like isn't necessarily a bad thing because like we're meant
yeah,
to be versatile and we're not the stars of the show, but like at
yeah.
the same time it's like you want to be mentally engaged and like you can be in those situations and you should be, obviously, and that's like kind of the test of like a more professional referee, like being able to stay engaged and focused and just as involved with a match that you're maybe not so active in.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, like kind of like a Royal Rumble match or
Yeah.
like a I Quit match. Like, you want to quit?
No,
You want to quit?
you want to
And it's
quit.
like, yeah.
It's
I
like
haven't had a
that's
I Quit match, but it's like one.
wrist lock. Like, yeah, I'm totally gonna give up on this first
Mm,
wrist lock of the
it's
match.
like, break the headlock, break the headlock. He gave up. He gave up. It's like, I don't think so. But yeah,
uh,
like, but yeah, a good singles match is kind of like, because I kind of get to be a fan at the same time, even though like from a refereeing point of view, I think those are also the matches where you can kind of like the referee also gets to shine more, because
yeah,
being less moving parts in the ring, the third man in the ring gets a little more focus, or kind of more importance to the storytelling, so to speak.
absolutely. What's the most recent match that you've refed? Obviously, COVID has thrown a big old monkey wrench and everything. Did you ref at all in 2020? Have you refed in 2021 yet? Like, tell me what the
Yeah.
most recent thing you did was.
Yeah, my before the COVID thing, was my WXW gig, and I got to do unnamed, a certain unnamed star that wanted to run, yeah, versus Ilya Dragunov, and
Gotcha.
it was a real cool match, which became less cool a few months after that.
Yeah.
But like,
What are you gonna do?
yeah, but what are you gonna do? But like during the pandemic, we have had a few Finnish shows. And also one slam show that was in Estonia,
Mhm.
and I think I got to work with George Kukas there, and that was my latest match. Was George Kukas versus the Estonian Mikk Vainula, and Kukas is a Syrian refugee that was survived being executed by the ISIS,
Wow.
and as a refugee managed to get himself to Germany,
Wow.
where he got trained and is now a professional wrestler and an actor slash model. But yeah, he was like, he was this close to being executed by the ISIS before a NATO bomb struck the area,
Yeah.
killing his would-be
Yeah.
assassin, and so he got to escape. And I was like, hearing that story, it's like, man, I was like, that was insane when
It gives you a
when I
real
heard that
frame of
story.
reference for like how, comfortable your life has been, right?
Mm.
It's just kind of like a, wow, yeah, you're right. Those things do go on in the world, and I'm
Yeah.
real lucky that I don't live there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like, yeah, especially Finland is a place where, like, I mean, like, you can just comparing those. I mean, Finland is like a very, very safe place. Like, most people here, like, don't have no idea how safe it is, because, being in certain parts of Atlanta, and you can hear, like, gunshots and, rapid fire, and like places where, like, people told me when I was in Atlanta, like, don't go anywhere alone when it's dark, and I'm like, what? I've never had to think that something like that in Finland,
Yeah, right.
ever. Never had to be worried about going anywhere in Finland. And
Yeah.
so, like, even in a Western country like United States, there are places where you shouldn't go, and you shouldn't be at certain times of the night. And then there's places like Syria, which, yeah.
I grew
And
up
then
in
there's places,
England, so yeah, I can definitely relate.
and then you have places like Syria, which is like, hell on earth, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, what's the farthest that you've traveled for wrestling so far? I mean, Atlanta obviously would be the like go-to, but have you done any like serious travel other than that, besides like Germany? We've talked about that, like have you done any other big like trips for wrestling? Have you been to WrestleMania before?
WrestleMania?
Yeah.
I have not been to WrestleMania. I hope to be at WrestleMania at some point.
Was your experience in Atlanta the only time that you've been in the States?
It is, yeah. I was like I vowed myself when I sat on the plane back to Finland that I will be back someday, And I didn't do the Arnold. I didn't do the Arnold impression. Yeah. But life kind of threw me a detour, because I have 3 kids now, and I didn't have 3 kids back in 2013. But like,
sure.
I see it more of a, it's just life throws you a curveball. All you got to do is adapt to it. But I have a feeling that I'll be going there at some point or another.
Very cool.
But the longest distance apart from Germany and apart from Atlanta is Isle of Man, this tiny little island. Between the UK and Ireland, which is, I guess officially
have wrestling there.
Yeah, they have like 1 show a year. They used to be like a hotspot back in the good old days with the Haystacks, Calhoun, and Big Daddy and guys like that. But like these days, it's like 1, maybe 2 shows a year. Sure. And I had a few shows back in 2016, 2017, where for Mega Slam Wrestling, I got to meet guys like, Sam Gradwell, who's in the NXT UK now. Yeah. And the guy with the horns from NXT UK, who's not there anymore. Yeah. We don't really talk about. But but those were cool shows, first shows in the UK, and I hope to have more of those as well, because UK is, like I said, it's both literally and figuratively a wrestling island unto itself, with a very, very strong living wrestling culture.
So we're talking a little bit already about goals and things like that. Obviously, you've accomplished quite a bit in your time. You have traveled internationally. You've worked with all kinds of, very accomplished people in your time. You've ascended about as far as you can in your home country. What kind of goals do you have left for yourself? Have you set any, long-term or short-term goals once, things are normal?
Well, for my short-term goal, I would say, I've had this for a few years now, is 1 new country or 1 new promotion every year. And I'm like, come hell or high water, that will be, achieved. 1 new country or 1 new promotion every year. And this year it was Germany, and I said last year. But this year, let's see how it goes. But,
let's see if we're all alive by the end of the year.
Yeah. 2021 has been a very crazy year already. I started pretty crazily. But yeah, other than that, who doesn't want to work as a wrestler, as a referee full time, do this for a living?
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, like I said, with the whole, thinking about, going to WWE, it feels so distant. It feels like, there are a lot of referees like yourself closer at hand. There's they don't need to come and get me. But I don't bring anything like that to the table yet. That I think that they can't get, closer by.
But then at the same time, there's no reason that, if an opportunity popped up at, say, like NXT UK, or once they inevitably they're going to do an NXT mainland Europe, like that's going to be a thing at some point.
Absolutely.
You're really good opportunity for yourself. Have you done a lot of television wrestling? Like, are you guys televised at FCF and Slam?
No, I mean, like Slam has done live broadcasts, but those have been, internet broadcasts. They have not been TV. Sure. But but done a few live shows with Earpiece, and which is also surprisingly rare in the Nordics, not to mention Finland, having done that. But it's also very, very fortunate to have been able to do those, because that is one of those things people are looking for. The more higher up you go in the food chain, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, very cool. Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed getting to hear a little bit more about your life, and getting to know you a little bit better. We talk pretty regularly, but it's something that I've been noticing a lot as I'm doing these, that like the people that through wrestling, you talk about wrestling all the time, but you don't necessarily talk about yourselves very much, so it was nice to peel back the layers a little bit and see what Teemu is like. Teemu.
Yeah, absolutely. Teemu. Yeah. Cool. And it's like most of my time I'm just sending stupid gifts to Odie, wasting his time with it, and trying to come up with as silly words as possible to see what gets a reaction out of him. But it doesn't really work. It doesn't work quite the same in Zoom. My face is not emoting enough. Yeah. Superimpose Teemu on a superimposed Teemu.
I need to get you a shirt that says "Close Enough." Before we wind things down, I want to give you an opportunity to plug any companies that you think people should check out. Obviously, mention your own social media, any things that you have coming up or that you've done before that you think people should take a look at. You got about 5 minutes. Take whatever time to mention whatever you like.
On Instagram, it's @FinrefTim. And I don't use Twitter and other social media because I'm kind of bad with that, but I'm trying to learn. But I'm on Instagram @FinrefTim, and I try to put my moments of glory and brilliance over there from time to time. Check out FCF Wrestling, wrestling.fi, formerly known as Fight Club Finland, and then there's Slam Wrestling Finland, which is slamrest.eu. I think. I'm gonna have to check that very quickly now because I checked and I already forgot.
He's got a computer right in front.
I should have it open right in front of me. Slamrest.com. My apologies. It used to be slamrest.eu, but it's actually slamrest.com.
Gotcha.
So those are the ones where you will most likely see me stumble about in the ring and try to get out of the way. Both companies have YouTube channels, and most of my stuff is on those if you need to see more of my moneymaker.
Well, Teemu, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We really appreciate your time today. I appreciate all the hilarity that you bring to our DMs as well as Zebra Talk in general. You're definitely...
Oh, you're just saying that.
No, totally, man. You're a breath of fresh air in Zebra Talk. There's some people
get a lot of this guy
too seriously. There's some people that don't take things seriously enough, but you're right in the middle. It's very nice. I appreciate it.
I try. Close enough.
And humanity to the group and a little personality. So thank you very much for being here, folks.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today on the Zebra Talk podcast. If you would like to support the Zebra Talk Fund, you can head over to prowrestlingtees.com/Zebra Talk. We've got sweaters, we've got shirts, we've got hats, COVID masks, all kinds of cool things. You can reach out to me if you would like to suggest yourself for the Zebra Talk Fund, or if you would like to, if you are a referee and you'd like to be on the show, the email is zebratalk123@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. And thank you again for being on here, man. I can't wait to chop it up with you again, and hopefully one of these days we'll actually get to meet in person.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a great day, and thank you for your time, buddy.
I do. Morjens.